Hello. Good morning. Welcome to Transparency Conversations, episode 3. I'm your host, LeBron Stephan. Thank you for checking back in with us for our Transparency Conversations series. This episode will be about the evolution of mental health for Black men and coping skills. All right, so we're just gonna dive right on in. All right, so after graduating college in the end of 2011, on December 2011, being in the 2012 NFL draft and kind of navigating through my 20s, starting in 2012, I felt in 2013 that specifically an athlete's mental health was kind of taken for granted, right? Or not taken serious, because a lot of times athletes are saw or visioned as superheroes or kind of like supernatural or superhuman, and at times can experience some harsh treatment from fans or coaches, things of that nature. So that was the first time, 2013, that mental health kind of started to begin to be prevalent to me. Just going through my own struggles and things of that nature, trying to find myself as a young, 20-something-year-old college graduate, trying to navigate through adulthood, figuring out I was going to play football again, what kind of jobs could I foster, things like that. So randomly, when I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and again, this series is called Transparency Conversations because we're telling the truth, we're being completely transparent. So when I moved to Atlanta, Georgia in 2013, I did not have a job lined up. I just knew I had some friends from college who told me about some jobs. They said this was a new Black Hollywood. There was a lot of opportunities for young Black working professionals. So I figured, hey, why not take the chance? I had never been to Atlanta. I was still pretty young. I think I was 24 at the time. So I, packed up my car and drove 10 hours, stayed with some friends for a few months, and luckily found a job in like a month or two. But ironically, my first job in Atlanta, I was a counselor at a mental health facility. Shout out to all my former co-workers. I learned so much from. Rajiv ended up becoming one of my best friends. His name is actually, I call him RJ. He's one of the best therapists in Atlanta now. My first ever professional boss, Kimberly Vay. She's also an awesome therapist in the Atlanta area. I'll leave their contacts in the description below. Dialectical behavioral therapy. She's also certified, and that is a major accomplishment. So I'll be sure to leave their contacts in the description below if anyone's looking for therapists in the Atlanta area. But so starting that job, and I did that job for about 3 years before I moved into like accounts receivable finance, that realm. And I can honestly say, I learned so much about just the hardships of mental health, where it actually comes from and stems from, what therapy really and truly is, and what coping skills were. So for my first about year, I just kind of did the job. I tried to make sure I was understanding. Try to make sure I was understanding to all the clients and males that I worked with. Never really truly putting myself in their shoes or understanding what my persona was regarding mental health or regarding how I work. But thinking back on it after I evolved, I felt that that year 2013, kind of a bit of 2014, I was just in a really dark place. I was super quiet. I always had headphones in. I never talked to anyone other than the people that I specifically work with, but I didn't really have a relationship with a lot of other coworkers at that company. Just was really kind of locked in towards still trying to make it to the NFL, and just knew I needed a way to be able to take care of myself essentially. But I think God always has a funny way of putting people and things in your life, because with that job I learned so much about mental health, and it really taught me to understand the different things that I went through that made me the different things that I went through during my childhood and during college that really made me the way that I was, in that current space. So, like I said, so from about 2013 to 2015, I really learned so much and began attempting to implement things that I was learning into my life. So I remember in 2015 I began journaling, and it wasn't consistent. I would do it maybe once or twice a week. I would also then go on stretches, weeks, without journaling, but because I wasn't used to it. So it took me a while. 2016 I started kind of doing it more, at least once or twice a week, like for consecutive weeks at a time, and journaling, just kind of getting a lot of thoughts out. That was very helpful. And then transitioning to mindfulness meditation music, even if it was just for 5 minutes to kind of like center myself in the morning before starting my day. And that became kind of like a daily practice, right? It's 2020 now, and I do that almost every day to really focus on being still and being present in that moment, in that day, not letting whatever happened a week ago or yesterday kind of affect my mood for the day, and just kind of taking that time, maybe those 5 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. It's so important, as you get older, because a lot of things kind of resurface, when you don't deal with them, right? And so now it's kind of at the point where whenever I'm on the way to work or a job or a gig, I'm always playing mindfulness meditation music, especially in the morning, because it's so soothing and relaxing that it allows you to kind of like just kind of be in that moment and not be distracted, by anything else. And a lot of times, you need that time, and you gotta pay attention to having those little small moments of time in each day, because it could definitely pay dividends, for how you set your day, right? How you set your week, et cetera, et cetera. So one thing that I wanted to discuss kind of happiness about is just how mental health has become like in the mainstream. So you see all type of athletes and celebrities finally kind of like coming out, especially black men and men in general. You see them coming out and talking about it, right? I remember a few years ago, Kevin Love for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Shout out to the land. I remember him coming out talking about depression, and I think a lot of people, it was an eye opener for a lot of people, because it's like, wow, Kevin Love, this guy's been in the league for 12 years. He's a millionaire, made a lot of money. So I'm sure on the outside looking in, a lot of people couldn't understand, why was he going through depression, or why was anxiety happening. And again, like I said earlier, a lot of times those things happen like way before they actually show. But when you don't deal with whatever it is, it always resurfaces and finds a way to come back in your life, or make you feel some type of way later in your adult life, and eventually you will have to deal with it or find a way to deal with it some way. So seeing a bunch of like celebrity men, athletes that look like me, talk about it, and just athletes in general, it was that was extremely refreshing to see, because it kind of validated my opinion that I had years ago, back in 2013, when I was kind of just feeling that an athlete's mental health was taken for granted. And obviously back then I didn't know how to express my viewpoint to the world, or I didn't understand how to elaborate on my viewpoint. But now, learning more about YouTube and kind of delving into attempting to be like a blogger and a host and things of that nature, I feel like YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, these kinds of platforms are great streamlines to where we can have those kind of discussions and be transparent and tell the truth about different things, you know, we've gone through. And of course, there's definitely going to be a filter on what I discuss. But, you know, in my opinion, I had a lot of experiences in my childhood that for a long time I thought were normal, right? And then just being completely honest, going to college and meeting people from different backgrounds and different environments than me, and talking about different experiences with them, or hearing how it was for them growing up, whether they grew up in like Kansas or St. Louis or a small town in Iowa or a small town in Illinois or Chicago or somewhere on the West Coast, or we had a lot of Florida guys, Texas guys. So being able to hear those guys' experiences of growing up and their childhood and then kind of comparing, that's when I start understanding from my age of like 18 to 22, 23, that a lot of the things that I had experienced were not normal. And here I am coming into college thinking that they were normal, right? So just kind of trying to understand what that meant and understand, you know, was I over it? Was I over it? Was I damaged by it? Had I talked to someone about it? Should I go see a therapist? Because, you know, growing up in the inner city, growing up in the Black community, especially in the 90s, therapy just wasn't a thing. Now I went through counseling. I had an event that happened when I was in kindergarten, so I was about 5 years old, where I had to have counseling and therapy for about 2 weeks. But I vaguely remember the counseling sessions, right? I remember a lady coming to our house and us talking as a family for about 2 weeks. Well, not 2 weeks, about a month or two, once a week, and that was it. And I just remember after that was over, the incidents that made us have counseling, they continued, right? Kind of on a lower scale, and you know, I won't go into complete detail about that because I'm just still trying to work through that and figure out a way that I can tell my story, specifically through art, you know, like a short story or a book or a film, things of that nature. But I just felt like the therapy and counseling experience that I had at that time, again, I was only 5 years old. It lasted for like a month or two. It was 1-2 week, and it didn't seem effective because after the sessions, the same behaviors from that my specific parent continued. Right, nothing changed, honestly. So even if I thought that therapy was a good thing or the counseling worked, in my experience, it didn't work because the same things happened. Right, so being a 24-year-old man, understanding that mental health for athletes is already kind of like not a big deal. People don't really pay attention to it. It was like, man, should I go to therapy? Should I be going to therapy? Should I be talking to somebody? Like, do I have something wrong with me? Should I go get checked out? Right? All those questions kind of foster in your head and have you kind of thinking all over the place, right? Just a bunch of mixed emotions, honestly. And so, you know, I made the conscious decision in 2016 to start going to therapy, right? And I remember my first visit, I knew that I was doing the right thing. Why? Because this is my first time talking about, you know, a lot of different experiences. And for the first time ever, like my words that I was exuding out my mouth, talking about these experiences, began to make me tear up, right, while I was talking about it. So that's when I knew, like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely probably dealing with something, and I probably need to try to figure out a plan, things of that nature. You know, my job at the time had a great program where, you know, you get 3 visits with a therapist for free because obviously you want to kind of try to build a rapport with the agent that you're appointed to, and see if you guys have a rapport. And if you don't, obviously try to find someone new. Randomly, my therapist, whose name was Brenda Robinson, so funny. She was actually from Dubuque, Iowa, which is about an hour away from Iowa City, Iowa, which was where, I went to college at. So we just immediately hit it off. She was a mixed woman. I think she, black and white. She had black and white parents. So she was from a mixed family, and we bonded on that because I actually had been to Dubuque actually a few times. I had a few friends that I met in Iowa City that was from Dubuque, her hometown. So we bonded on just Iowa in general. She told me she grew up an Iowa Hawkeye fan, and so we kind of just hit it off. And I just knew that me and therapy was kind of aligned because it just obviously I was nervous at first, but it ended up working out, and I feel I evolved a lot and learned a lot about myself from that experience. I haven't done therapy in about a year and some change since I moved to Los Angeles, but I do want to reconvene that because definitely some things that I'm still working through. But I feel like I've done a lot of good work, and I know that it's a never-ending thing, kind of, but it's a very important thing. It's a very, very important practice, right? To practice, so you don't go crazy, so you are able to manage your emotions with your siblings and your family and your coworkers and just your circle, the people that you surround yourself with, day in and day out, right? So if anyone watching this, especially men, athletes, black men, don't feel embarrassed if you feel like you need to talk to somebody. It is okay. Find your therapist in your respective area. Try to find someone that you connect with, have a good rapport with, and that you can tell the truth to, because that's the thing. And if you feel like when you think about certain things or you replay certain experiences in your head, you feel yourself getting emotional or rageful, you should definitely look into therapy for sure. We have to get those things out. And it took me a while, but just going to therapy and getting different suggestions from therapists. Because one main thing for me that I wanted to realize is kind of just like why, right? Like why were my parents the way they were? Why did they raise me and my twin sisters the way that they did? And then when you're able to kind of make a list of reasons why, whether your parents were super young when they had you guys and they weren't fully developed adults yet, so all they could do was kind of do the best that they could, whether it was raise you out of survival more than love. That's what it was, because they had you so young and all they could do was survive and do the best that they could, right? So when you understand that, then you're able to kind of like relieve them of their experiences that you went through, right? Instead of kind of blaming them or feeling some malice towards them, you were able to forgive them and release and start that release process of, okay, it's gonna be okay, this happened because it is okay, and just kind of work your way through it. And it could be a gradual process, 25%, then 50%, then 75, and at some point, you'll fully be over it. But I don't think you have to rush it. And that's the main reason why, I don't have kids yet. Because I just feel like, I want to raise my kids off love and happiness, more so than survival. So, I'm still trying to work through some things. And, eventually in a few years, I'll be ready and I think fully evolved. When really, as a man, as a woman, when are we ever fully evolved? We should always be looking for a newer evolution, right, in ourselves. So, that's like a never-ending task, right? But I just wanted to share my experience with you guys of the evolution of mental health. And so now, to close, we're going to talk about some coping skills. So, and again, I learned this back in 2013. Well, it was various years, 2013, 14, 15. And after I learned some practices, I just learned some things that work for me. And I'll share those with you guys, and hopefully you can choose something that works for you. And so yeah, we'll do that. So again, coping skills are learn skills that you can use to cope with something. So whether you were like abused as a child, you were molested, you had a traumatic experience where you maybe saw somebody get killed, or you got jumped or shot at or beat up, any of those environmental things that you kind of go through, depending on where you're from, depending on if it's like inner city, or you know, you just were at the wrong time, in the wrong place at the wrong time. You know, I can relate to that. And so for years, you know, I didn't have any coping skills because I thought it was normal. All the things that I saw, all the things that I went through, I thought it was normal, right? So after understanding more about mental health and understanding how to have a plan with therapy and coping skills, I had to find what was good for me. So a thing that was like super good for me was sketching. So to give you a backstory, I started sketching probably when I was about 6 years old in the first grade. And I used to sketch nonstop from like the first grade to like the 5th grade, nonstop. Anytime I had some free time, you could catch me sketching. I had a big blue binder, and I remember probably like 2nd or 3rd grade, I started getting in trouble for it. And teachers started taking my sketch binder because I would like hurry up and finish my work real fast. And then while all the other students were finishing their work, I would pull my sketch binder out, keep sketching. I would sketch like Pokemon, my favorite football and basketball players, my favorite cartoons. Sometimes I would draw my own cartoon characters or just kind of make them up or sketch it out. And I felt like, and I was pretty talented. Sketches were pretty good. So after I went to middle school, sports kind of took over my life, and I stopped sketching, right? So one of my coping skills was sketching, and I can show you guys my sketchbook. So I don't know if you guys can see. So I started doing just small characters, like a man talking, like sorry, and like a horse, like drinking water out of a pail, and like some rocks and mountains. Started off doing that. Then let's see. Then I started doing like boats. You guys can see a bunch of boats, a man walking on the beach, shadow. Trying to just do some shading a little bit. All type of just different objects, rocks and branches and things of that nature. Oh, but guess what that led to? That led to starting to draw sneakers. So I'm not sure. All my sneaker heads out there, yes, that's a 12, Jordan 12. Kind of just made it my own design, and I put some spikes at the bottom to make it look like cleats. Then I just started naming them. I call this the second skin. That's kind of like a Jordan 1 design. I put some spikes at the bottom, Nike, you know. So that was my first coping skill, sketching, and obviously I tried to show you when I first started. I was just doing small things, and then that led to some shoe sketches. Just kind of trying to feel like I was still a part of the football game. That's why I put spikes at the bottom of all my shoe sketches. Just something to creatively try to stay creative, but also, you know, it's a coping skill for sure. Then I started doing law of attraction journaling. I started doing that last year. I can see that. So it's essentially just a way for you to just attract what you want. All right, it's just a bunch of journaling, just writing about what you want to attract in your life, and you know, all your dreams and goals and how to get there. All right. The power of attraction, the power of law of attraction, the power of writing it down first. That meant so much to me, honestly. Then after that, I transitioned to the Hustle Journal. And now this tool right here is very, very powerful. Salute to my guy, a guy that I went to high school with actually in Cleveland, Ohio, at Warrensville Heights High School, Ryan Rosenthal. He's a co-founder of this journal. I will leave their Instagram and their website in the description below. Be sure to go to their website and order a journal. So the Hustle Journal it kind of talks about the art of hustling. So I'll just give you guys what I wrote today. For every day, it gives you like a quote from a famous recording artist. I'll show you guys that real quick. And so for today, it's a Rick Ross quote. Regardless of how it goes down, life goes on, right? So then you write down your do's for your day, your don'ts for the day, what you're grateful for, your daily affirmation, and what your tasks are for the day. I had 5 tasks, and then you just write today's notes. It's just your ideas, free writing, and thoughts, right? So just to give you guys an example, my do's for today was to increase productivity, be present, and smile, you're alive. Smile, you're alive. My don't is entertain negativity, because we don't entertain negativity, you hear me? We don't entertain negativity, right? Kind of just let it go off our shoulders, keep pressing forward, and let lost confidence stay lost, right? And that was powerful for me because it's like, I felt like, the older you get, you kind of reach points in your life that you could lose some of your confidence, right? And if you do lose any confidence, let it stay lost, meaning don't let it resurface. Like figure out a way to stay positive, stay committed, and focus on that. Don't focus on, the negative. What I'm grateful for: family, good physical health, good mental health, the opportunity to be better than yesterday. My daily affirmation is, I am strong, persistent, enough, a brother, a son, a friend, and a Daniel man. So the power of writing things down, right? Your do's, your don'ts, your affirmations, what you're grateful for. You start your day off doing these kinds of things. I mean, to be honest, there's just no way that you can lose. Now, that I'm not telling you that when you start journaling, you won't have negative thoughts, you won't have mixed emotions, you won't have anger, you won't get mad, you won't get upset, because those are just human actions. Those will never go away. But journaling and writing things down does teach you how to cope with them, teaches you how to continue to be present as possible and treat people with respect, no matter if you want to or you don't want to, right? Okay, and my last coping skill is something called quoting sketches. So as you can see, today's quote of the day is, the people who speak make more noise than 10 people who speak make more noise than 10,000 who are silent. So what does that mean? Be a better listener than you are a talker, right? And then today is Wednesday, so I just drew a guy hanging from a rope saying, hang in there. It's hanging in there. Someday you're closer to Friday than you think, right? And then this is just a fish. This is a shark attacking a fish. And that's kind of just symbolizing, always be the shark, right? Always kind of go for what you want. Never be scared of failure, right? And then I usually do a word of the day, and today's word of the day is aeolist. That could have been wrong. Please don't laugh at me. Please don't laugh. But quoting sketches was something that I started about 2 years ago. I was working a new accounts receivable job in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was just kind of like a morale booster, right? I try to get in a few minutes early, 5 to 10 minutes early, so I have some time just to be creative real quick before I start crunching numbers and being super busy for the next 8 hours, right? And at first I was just doing it for myself to kind of just look at it and extend my vocabulary with the word of the day and be optimistic from the quote. You read the quote, and that creates optimism for the day, right? And And then the sketch is just, you know, a way to be creative and just kind of get those creative juices flowing before an 8-hour workday. And what was cool about it is just over time, it just started to be like a staple in the office. A lot of people started coming to my area and just looking at the board every day. And that's when I named it Quoting Sketches. And it was just a cool experience. So now, no matter where I am in the universe or the world, I bring it with me and I still try to do it every day. Not gonna lie, being transparent, don't do it every day depending on what I have to do each day. But I try to at least do it, 3 to 4 times a day. And it's on the weekends too, because when I first started it, I only did it Monday through Friday. Right. So we've reached the end of episode 3, talking about the evolution of mental health and coping skills. I hope and pray that anyone in the audience or anyone listening got something from this. Again, I'll leave all those resources, those 2 therapists I spoke about earlier, I'll leave their information in the description below. And I'll also leave the Hustle Journal Instagram handle and website in the description below for anyone that wants to order one. I promise you it's a great tool to have. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 3 of Transparency Conversations. We look forward to episode 4. Please subscribe to my channel. Like, comment, share. If you guys have any questions or comments, I'll be sure to try to answer them as fast as I can, all right? So until next time, bye. Stay safe.